Hello and welcome to Live Code Happy Hour for this wonderful April 3rd, 2020. I'm Andrew Barnes and I'm here with some friends today to do some live coding with you. And we'll just roll right into introductions. We have a first time guest. Uh, Go ahead and introduce yourself, Jeremy.
Hey folks, I'm Jeremy Duncan, platform architect here at ServiceNow. Been developing and architecting on the platform for about 8 years now. So pre-Aspen's when I got started. So finally was able to join the ranks of ServiceNow. So glad to be here today with you.
Pre Aspen. Nice. I like it. Wonderful. And Brad.
Hey everybody, my name is Brad Tilton. I'm a developer advocate with ServiceNow's developer program. I have been developing on the platform since 2008 as a customer, partner, trainer, and employee. I've done lots of different things, and I am excited to be here. And we have a fun topic today.
Awesome. Hello, I'm Andrew Barnes, also developer advocate. Our duo team here, Brad and I. I've been on the platform for a little over 5 years as a developer and product owner. I specialize in building integrations, custom applications, and managing large scale development teams. The history with higher education, teaching computer science, and running enterprise applications. And Just it's super excited to be here today on this beautiful April day. I don't know how it is where y'all are, but it is a gorgeous day today here in North Carolina. How's the weather where you're at, Brad?
Yeah, it's
We're good.
sunny
It's
here today.
Nice.
Yeah, we're good.
So-
It's about to get bad though.
So let's introduce our beverages of choice in the same order.
All right, today I'm drinking Mr. Buble or bubbly, and the flavor is cranberry.
Cranberry.
Yeah.
Nice. Brad?
I am going the Dragon's Milk
Oh.
Barrel Aged Stout.
I'm
I
jelly now. Oh, Dragon's Milk.
I like this
Dragon's
one.
Milk is a good one.
and Yeah,
That's
this
a
is the
good
last
one.
of my barrel aged stouts, I think.
Oh, well, it's summertime. So today I've got a white zombie, which is a white ale from who was this from? Catawba. And I think this is a new one for me, but ooh, man, that Dragon's Milk is excellent.
This is
My
a good one.
brother-in-law, like that's his favorite beer. So today, if you're unfamiliar with our show, we do live coding, and it's completely unscripted, unpracticed, and no polished demos here because that's not super valuable for you as a developer out there in the wild, getting your your requirements and your stories in and doing work. Um, Seeing someone do a polished demo to a developer like myself doesn't show me much of how you got there. Like knowing that it's possible is one thing, but it's possible anyway. And knowing
Anything's possible,
yeah,
right?
you throw enough resources at it, anything's possible. So polished demos to me aren't super valuable. So what we try and do is show you how you get to that polished demo. So how you actually run into problems and solve them. And so that's why we do this show this way. Today we're going to be looking at ServiceNow has put out 4 store apps that are currently available for our customers to use and leverage, and they are not being monetized at this time. I think is the way that I can say that. I'm sure Jeremy can say it the way it's supposed to be said. This is my first time talking about these. And to help companies, well, you tell us a little bit about the apps.
Yeah, for sure. So
Because you'll do it way better than I will.
So we have 4 applications dedicated to responding to emergencies. So we start with emergency response operations to help us build rosters of key pertinent positions that you need to respond to emergencies. And then we move on to self-report, exposure management, and outreach. I lump those three together because they are inherently designed to work together. While you don't have to release all of the apps together, you can just do one at a time. But today we're actually going to show you how they all flow together naturally, and we'll actually do some work from a tech perspective, tie those three together. So using emergency self-report, you get the ability to report how you're feeling to your team, to your manager, who has the rights to see that information. From there, check exposure, see who you might have impacted with your sickness. And then from that exposure management, you can jump right into outreach to send out a communication, either using email, using mobile push, and then maybe in a future release, we'll talk about SMS. That is possible. We've had a lot of folks asking about it, but it's not a part of the base app. So yeah, those four applications working together to help you respond to emergency. It doesn't have to be COVID like outbreak related. It could be a natural disaster. We're seeing that with many of our customers. So yeah, that's a breakdown of the four.
And so, like you said, the thing that we're going to look at today is trying to, build some of that connective tissue between these three of these apps, because they're fairly well related, and we want to make it easier for both the employees and the organization to, streamline that process and make it, good for the employees and the organization to have visibility to these things, and only having to do a response once. Like if I tell my company in one of these that I'm quarantined, I shouldn't have to do it more than once. And that's sort of the goal today. So once I get into the screen share, I'll dive into that. Is there anything else that we should discuss as a group before we get into the screen share and we start poking around a little bit? How's the chat doing, Brad?
It's good. We're talking about the weather a lot.
Oh, nice.
Seems like it's changing. We got some snow and some rain.
Oh, so it's all over the place, huh?
Yeah.
Saw Colorado last night. So it was like here in Nashville, Tennessee, it was like 60 degrees at sunset. And then I saw the cold front, and right behind the cold front in the map, Colorado was like 17 degrees. So there was like a 40-degree split right around that line. So crazy weather you guys are getting. So
that's crazy. All right. Yeah. Well, let's drop into the screen share and we'll take a look at the apps and then we'll start our build. So I will share my screen now. There we go. All right. So I'm in a ServiceNow instance. Shocking, right? And once you get a chance to take a look, make sure that the Zoom level, so if someone in the chat could just let us know if the Zoom level is looking good today. I always get sad downgrading my screen to this resolution. So maybe let's take a look at maybe the dashboard first, because is that a good place to start to just give us some overview? Is one of the dashboards?
Jeremy? Yeah. So yeah, are we going to start in self-report or are we going to start in outreach?
Whichever makes the most sense to give folks who haven't seen this a sense of what these apps do.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you start in the self-report dashboard, the very top. So think about self-report is where, and you're viewing this as an employee right now. So this is where non-managers are going to go to report their health status. So if you click the health status list, you'll see, and take note of this, you'll see that you've got in quarantine, reporting symptoms, returning to work, or decline to say. So let's go ahead and say you're reporting symptoms. All right.
That makes me sad.
Yeah. So Andrew Barnes has a health record. Go ahead and see that record. And I want you to take another note, developers, as you're thinking about this. You see that you've got a record that's created here. A couple of questions that come out of this. Does this create multiple records? No, there is a business rule behind the scenes that creates a single record, and it's updated every time you change your status.
So when I come over here and change my status to reporting to work,
yep,
I expect that this is still going to be the 1012.
And it absolutely is. Okay. Actually goes away if you're not reporting symptoms or in quarantine.
But the record is still there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And it's always going to be, you're always going to be that health record.
So
okay.
1012 is still mine, and it's returning to work.
Now there is a business rule. So some of the folks have said, look, what if I want to report on when someone reported they were having symptoms, then when they went to quarantine, then when they said they're returning back to work? Maybe we want to check anomalies and see, hey, if they just were reporting they were sick and then 4 days later returning to work, maybe there's a problem there, right? So you can definitely adjust that. All right. So take note. Yeah, take note that your crisis task is there, and self-report is straight up super simple. One of the things that you'll notice in the dashboard, if you were to impersonate a manager,
like a manager.
Yeah.
So maybe I should set my manager and then go impersonate that person.
Sure. Yep. You can do that. And then we'll show that real quick.
Is the manager field not?
No, it's not in the default view, unfortunately.
Goodness. Look at that. Well, we will go add the manager field real quick. That's easy to do once the page loads.
I was going to tell you it's right there, but that seemed kind of mean since it's not April Fool's anymore.
Oh yeah, that would have been rough. I was going to tell you sysuser.list and you could have jumped over and said manager, but
I can edit it from the list view, but
it's all good. But you might as well make a change once so you can do it, have it there forever. So just the key thing that I want to point out is the manager view. You have a few more widgets that are available to you. Those are not for privacy reasons. Those are not available to standard employees. So if you manage someone, you will see their health status, your direct reports health status. Another question that's come up commonly is how far up the chain does that go? So if you have 3 managers above you, right? Or if you have 3 layers of leaders that are above you, from the top down, a CEO down can actually see
all of the reports.
All of their, yes, absolutely. So as you can see, scroll down. All right. So see your boss, Chuck.
So I gave Chuck a promotion today.
There you go. So Chuck is actually not feeling well. And the cool thing about this app is tactically you can, if you had any tasks, Chuck had any tasks, you can reassign those to anybody else on your team in that widget on the right-hand side. Of course, you don't have any.
Oh, that's nice. Well, let's get one.
Yeah. And by the way, these widgets that we created for this portal page we're trying to stay as out of the box as possible to keep it, to keep it out of box, to not customize. So you do have the ability to do that. Be careful. Some of these are not active. I think that's one of the challenges too. So
apparently I'm not,
yeah,
I don't have the roles to go assign myself something. Let's set Howard Johnson to have Chuck as their manager.
There you go.
That's how we're going to do this today.
And Fred Luddy worked actually, and David Liu, I think, had some tasks that were, if you want to find him real quick, he'd be a good one.
Good old David.
Yeah, good old Lou. Let's make Chuck his manager as well.
All right, so now we'll return to that dashboard and we should see some tasks here.
Yeah. Nope. But let's demonstrate one other thing while you're here.
Is that because they're not set to be concerned?
Let me ask you a question. When did you download these apps into your instance?
Oh, that's a good question.
How long ago? Like a week?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Well,
probably more than a week.
Yes, that's your problem. So in a subsequent, hey, here's a good opportunity. So if you look at that widget, there's what we're doing in that widget is we're only the first release that we had. We were only looking at SC task, SC request, and a couple of other tables. But in more recent releases, we've actually updated that widget to look at a base task table.
Okay.
So
I could go update these apps here.
Yep. Theoretically.
Yep.
You may not want to do it. It may break your
Yeah,
Break your
I'm
demo.
not going to, but I'm not seeing them show up.
And we had a question on YouTube on how fast these apps were developed. I think it was pretty short. Jeremy, do you have the,
It,
Yeah, it
the
was
details?
7 days.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
less than 2 weeks from the start to the deployment into the store, right?
Yeah. In your Andrew, in your left hand filter navigator, just type in applications and go to all. Yeah, right there. And then try to search emergency there.
That would seem weird that they wouldn't show up in the store or the My Company, but whatever.
Yeah. There you go. So you got some updates out there available.
Yeah, so there are updates. Yeah. So we have .2 and .3 is available for this one, and then 3 to 4 on that one, and 0.7 to 10 essentially. All right. So we're not going to update that, but that is actually, yeah, no, we're not going to update one of them.
Yeah, I think
that's too risky.
I think the main point, and I got a little off topic, but the key that we want you to focus on is that the crisis task that's generated when Andrew said he wasn't feeling well, or Chuck or whoever he was logged in as, that is a crisis task that's created and constantly updated. So just take a note. If you want to create new crisis tasks every time someone reports something, then there are 2 business rules that are
That's a business rule that needs to be disabled then, right?
yeah,
Or
or modified, right? Maybe you needed to do part of its functionality.
part of it.
So
yeah,
all
makes
right.
sense.
So
and the way to get to
ahead.
those is on the crisis task table. We would come here and configure that table, or because I'm assuming these are not openable in Studio. And I said I clicked table, but I meant business rule.
Yeah.
Just because,
Yeah, and you're in the global scope, so it might balk at you here in a second.
It'll be fine. Which one would be
Self-report?
I don't even need to pick one right now. We can just go look at them. So we've got self-report apps here, and so let's see. Check for existing same health records. That's probably one of them.
Yep.
And so depending on if you need all of this or not, you would either modify it or disable it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point. I really like the contextual stuff here that was added in New York. Have you tried these out, Jeremy or Brad? Yeah. So whenever you're doing a glide record, for example, to a table, you can get to the table definition. So it'll open up that table's definition here, which is very handy dandy. And if you're invoking a script include, you can also get to that script include from here.
The script include one is the best.
The script include one is absolutely the best. And that was something that the developer advocates championed and got into the platform specifically. Like we fought for that to happen, and then it was deployed, and that was a proud moment. Because the number of times that I've had to drill down 6 layers of script includes is very numerous. So let's start. Let's make our plan for our first requirement, and then let's do it. And so we talked about this self-reporting generates these health records. And then we briefly mentioned that the emergency outreach could reach out to a group or a user, or when in fact we could probably take a look at that and see how these are defined. But these check-ins prompt users to come in and respond either through email or the push notification to respond, but they could also enter in to that dashboard and do the self-reporting even though they got this notification and could have responded to it. And that, I think, was the first step that we wanted to do was connect those two things. Is if there's a notification pending for a user and they've done a self-report, we'll say that they have completed the check-in because they did the self-report. So would it be valuable to look at one of these records? What do y'all
Yes.
think? So this is how you set them up. But let's go take a look at what the user would actually receive. So I generated one. So I selected a group and then hit send notification just before the show. And so in my outbox, in the mail outbox, did I hit a space? Outbox. There should be some messages to this group. So I selected a group to generate a check-in. And so I just went to the outbox, clicked on a user, and then previewed the HTML body. And so this is what the user received. And they could click on these links, and then that will check them in. And this is, I believe, handled through an inbound action.
Yes.
I needed a drink. So that's handled through an inbound action to update the check-in record for them. And what we want to do is take that information from the self-report to the check-in. So if you remember from the check-in, these 4 responses are the same as the self-report app. I'm fairly certain.
No, the responses there.
Oh, they're
not connected. So that would be
I
one
thought
of
they were the same. Let's go take a look, because I thought I stored that. I'm bad then. So there's in quarantine, reporting symptoms, return to work, and to decline to say.
Yeah.
So what do we have here? We've got decline to say.
Prefer not to say. Yeah.
I have symptoms, or I may be developing symptoms. And then I do not have symptoms, but there's no quarantine here.
No. And there's also not return to work either.
And there's not a return to work.
So this is one of the integrations, right?
Yeah.
As we talk about integrating the two, this is where we would want to do a little bit of mapping or potentially change your responses. Now there is a domino effect in doing that, right? Sure. If you change your responses here, you got to update your inbound email action. But the goal here would be to correlate the response that comes back in that's stored and update the self-report application with the proper response. So
for our sake, for this purpose, I think what we'll do is let's take a look at so I generated this notification set, and it has these were the 5 notifications that we saw in the outbound. And I think for our goal here is we want to say they acknowledged it. And then if there's a mapping that's reasonable, we map it. And if there's not, we leave that blank here.
Yeah.
How's that sound, Brad?
Sounds reasonable to me.
So let's do that. So we'll take the mappings from the self-report dashboard choices and map the 2 that make sense. There's 2 of them, right? So the reporting symptoms and the decline to say map over to this crisis task, and the other 2s don't, but we'll still mark that they acknowledged it. So let us fire up Flow Designer, because that's my favorite place to go. I love going to Flow Designer. Have you worked much in Flow Designer, Jeremy?
Yes, love it. I'm an old school workflow editor guy, and have
me too.
have argued in the past that I could get around it, but now I've succumbed to loving Flow Designer, mostly because of the impact that it has on the organization to be able to low code quick flows. Flow Designer, VA Designer, I mean, those two kind of work hand in hand in how easy they are to build stuff. So, and also the integration hub piece that's tied in with it too. So lots of good reasons to switch.
So for us on the show, the integration hub pieces are near and dear to our hearts because we spend a lot of time building integrations on the show, and how fast we can build new spokes and leverage existing spokes to add new methods and functionalities just makes it just fun to use. So I need to choose which scope I'm going to put this in. I'm going to put it in the self-report one, I think, because we're going to go from self-report to outreach. I don't think it matters, but I think that's the direction.
If you're taking the response from outreach though, you'd actually be going back to self-report. You could do it either way. But
yeah, the direction I'm going right now is from self-report to the check-in.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect.
So if they go to the dashboard and check in, I want to go mark that they've acknowledged the check-in.
Rock on. Yep.
So I'm going to say self-report app, and this could even be a new, this could be my own app. This could be our customizations for COVID version app or whatever.
Yeah.
The scope here isn't quite as important.
Keep in mind one thing when you do this, because your check-in acknowledgments are tied to a campaign, you may create a self-report record, like from self-report, you may create an acknowledgement record that's not tied to an existing check-in, since those are managed separately. So you just want to build in some logic that would go ahead and scan that table.
So we only want to update it if they're part of one.
Okay, there you go.
And on the flip side is what I want to do is the other direction is when we flip to the, and maybe visually will help. So when I generate a new check-in outreach campaign, if they've already got a self-report that is within some window, I want to not send it to them.
Yeah.
So that's the connective, both directional thing that I'm going for here. So on a created or updated for our table, and the name of our table is, I have no idea.
That's a good name. I like that table name.
Crisis task. Crisis task.
So I feel like we have to say this live on the air. Upside Down Andrew, in relation to liking Flow Designer, says he is a fladvocate. So I thought we should just give that some airtime.
Oh, I love you, Upside Down Andrew. You can come join the show if you want, Andrew. I like Upside Down Andrew. All right, so we've got a new, so we're going to assume there's a new record generated, nope, just updated. So we're going to say the health status is changing. The health status changes. And we want to run this for each. I think I probably want to do it for every update. I got to think about that for a second. So these run trigger conditions are very important, especially if you may have a cyclical process. Whereas, say someone's reporting symptoms and then they say they return to work and then they say again that they're reporting symptoms, each unique change wouldn't be good for me in that situation, because I do want to update it based off of that, getting back to that same status it was previously. So I think I'm going to do for every update here. Y'all have any thoughts on that?
I think you're okay with every
Yeah,
update.
I think I'll be okay with that. We might adjust it later. So, as you suggested, Jeremy, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look up to see if there is a record that we care about. I'm actually going to use a lookup records, and the reason for that is if you do a lookup record, you and it doesn't find one, your flow just stops. You get an error state and you're done. Um, so I'm going to do a lookup records and move from there. And the table that we're going to look up records on is this one, which is called check-in acknowledgements. All right. Check in acknowledgements. And we're going to look for the user. Let's go ahead and open one of these up. And we've got the user field is sneakily enough just called the user field. Cool. So we're going to look up user is, and then we're going to use our little cannonball and get to our trigger record. And we should have a user. Nope. What do we have in the trigger here? The crisis record should have a, well, let's just go look. Has a person. Ha! Sneaky people. A person. A person. Y'all are eerily quiet.
I'm mesmerized.
Okay, that's good. I just want to make sure everybody's there.
Yeah.
So user is the same person. All right. And that's basically it, right? So we, do you know, is there any logic in the check-in acknowledgement? Would I expect to get more than one record? If a person was part of more than one campaign, would it generate new ones?
So for self-report, remember self-report only creates.
Yeah, I'm asking for the check-in acknowledgement.
Oh yeah, sorry. Check-in acknowledgement would create a separate record because it's tied to each campaign.
Okay,
So
so I would expect in some scenarios to have more than one record.
yes, and check-in, absolutely.
Okay, cool. That's good. Well, then we started from the right thing, which is look up check-in acknowledgement records, so we can get more than one. So that's going to return us 0 or many records. And so in order to handle that, we'll need flow logic for each. And I occasionally forget where the stuff is in when I'm creating new thing. I'm like, I want to go to action or subflow. Sometimes I just forget. Like wait for duration is totally a flow logic thing, but I look for it in action every time. I have not learned that that's in there because that's just it's an action. It is more appropriate for it to be in flow logic. It's like an SAT question, right? For the young folks out there, is both of those are correct places it could be, but one of them is more correct. Flow logic is the more correct place. That was quite an aside. So we're going to drop in our records, and don't be fooled. You cannot drop a record singular, no S, into this area. I know others have tried. See, record is not allowed here. No records, only CDs. Record. Man,
I got it.
Tough room. Tough room. You got it. That's the best I get today. All right.
For that one, yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been shut in at home for a long time now.
So there is a lot of discussion around your cannonball icon comment.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of different ideas for what it might be called.
I mean, I've got other things I call it too. I personally like martini glass.
Ooh, I think we did have a martini
Like
olive.
that's martini olive. Like
Yeah, Jace had martini olive.
Jace, you're my kind of guy. We love Jace. Jace is a developer MVP. He's awesome. Let us so we're going to loop through these records and we're going to update them. So perhaps we want to check to see if they have one that's unacknowledged. So maybe I want to adjust my query a little bit. Do I want to do anything to those records if they're already acknowledged previously? That's a process decision. It's not a tech decision. I feel like I probably don't want to mess with them if they've already been acknowledged because they've already answered it previously. What do y'all feeling on that? So you were part of a campaign, you got an email at 9 a.m., you answered it, and then you were in your ServiceNow instance at 11 a.m. and you saw the self-report thing and you clicked it and reported. Should you go and update anything in the campaigns if it's already been answered?
Your self-report status could change at any moment. So if you were in a campaign and reported that you were feeling okay, you're at work, right? But you come back later and say, I'm not feeling well, I think it would be important to update the check-in
Okay.
so that you're not reporting that someone feels well, you're getting more real-time information.
That makes sense. Um, and that is, I think, looking in the context of reporting up one of these silos, which is what we're trying to break down. But for now, I think that makes sense. Is we'll update whatever's there, and so I think what I'll do is perhaps sort these. I think I might want to only modify the most recent one. But I'm not sure how the reporting up goes for the check-in acknowledgement records. Can you offer some expertise on that? So if a user has 3 different check-ins over time, would the reporting up only go off the most recent one anyway?
I think you should do the most recent one.
Okay.
Yeah, the most active campaign that's out there would make the most sense because so just like we might want to show statistics around timing of self-report, I think the check-in acknowledgments gives you that ability to report later on inherently because it is multiple campaigns. So I think doing the most recent would make the most sense.
Okay. So we will update a campaign entry. So we're going to drop this in here. And we are going to do the acknowledge. I'm going to pretend like they acknowledged via email. Acknowledgement status is acknowledged. And we might need to do a little transforming of data based off of the different choice possibilities. So we've got these 4 here in the check-in, and over here in the self-report, we've got these 4. And so these are what I have available to me as from the user, and I need to decide which of these move over into the check-in. And I feel like in quarantine and reporting symptoms might both go to I have symptoms.
Yeah.
If you're in quarantine, I don't really care whether or not you have symptoms or not.
Right.
You're in quarantine.
Because remember, the goal of these applications, and I know it may not be clear at times, is to get everyone to understand when folks are returning back to work. That's the goal.
So I think those two will both map to I have symptoms. And then returning to work should map to no symptoms. Because I don't want you returning to work if you have symptoms. So
Right.
But these are all process decisions, and I'm just making them. And obviously, you would make whatever makes the most sense to you. So decline to say will go to the equivalent of decline to say. These first two will go to I have symptoms, and returning to work will be I don't have symptoms. All right, so let's do that. To do that, we've got two choices. We can either try and do this directly with some logic here in Flow Designer Direct, and especially possibly using the transform features here or the inline scripting, or we can make an action that does this. Let's see how hard it would be so given that there's only 4 things, we could totally do a terrible, like, if this, then that. Because we only have 3 cases, right? Since 2 of them are going to map to the same thing. You could totally make a simple tree here. And we could do that, but let's try not to do that. How could we get the health status? So I might just script it because that's what I feel like is the simplest thing for me as a developer to do. But you could absolutely, with the tools available to you in a no code fashion, do this, given that it's such a small number of cases. So I could easily up here go flow logic if, and then drop in the record here. And it's, this records. And there, what's that field? Is it health status is reporting symptoms or quarantine. Oh, it sure would be nice if it had automatically done that for me. Health status is quarantine. Then do this. So I could do that. I don't know. What are y'all feeling?
Could this be a decision table instance, or do we not have that many?
I don't think it's worth
choices?
going out to a decision tree because the overhead for that is higher than, like, I will only look at decision tables if I'm looking at like 5 or more things. Like 3 things is probably not enough for that overhead of using decision tables. But I like where
Okay.
your head's at there, Brad. Like that's
Andrew
that's the
Barnes'
right
best
kind of thing.
practice. 5 or more. I got it.
So given just our time constraints, I'm gonna roll with this. And if you can't see it, it's very sneaky. These little dots over here mean you can drag this thing. Bam. Now we are
What?
updating this record.
I don't think I knew that.
You just taught Brad something. That's amazing.
All of us learn something on this show every time.
Wow.
And the employee check-in. Nope. Employee check-in is. Nope. That's not what I'm looking for. Health status. Health status is I have symptoms. Yes. Done. And then we'll do flow logic else if, and this, I'm not proud of what we're doing right here. This is just, if you're a no code developer, this is the best way to do three things, given the tools that we have available right now. If this was for my team, I would probably build them something like a decision tree or an action that would handle this for them. But this is given the constraints we have, seems reasonable. And I decline to say. We're going to add an action to update a record. And we're going to update this record. You know what I didn't do?
What?
Is I didn't adjust the for each. I actually don't want a for each. I just want the first record. Huh. I'm going to figure that out in a minute. We're going to pretend like I didn't just say that.
And it'll be, I'd prefer not to say there.
And the health status is I prefer not to say. And the acknowledgement status is I acknowledged. Done. And then the last one, our good old else, we're going to update a record. We're going to drop in this record. And we're going to say their health status is I have no symptoms because they're returning to work. That's what this last one is. And their acknowledgement status is acknowledged. So pretend like that's not a for each because it's not. Let's save it and test it out. So if we return to the list view here, we have got Aria, and over here, we're going to make you Aria. Hope this doesn't break everything in the world. No, you don't want to? Why don't you want to be? Oh, okay. Why don't you think there are users? This is clearly not meant to be an input field.
You're logged in as administrator. That's a dumb question.
Is there a reference qualifier?
There must be a reference qualifier because you're not meant to change those, and you're not meant to do what I'm doing, which is reasonable because there's probably business logic driving behind this thing, and so the manager is it's only people who are managed by me.
Yeah.
So I can't edit that unless I'm that person's manager. Well, you know what we're going to do.
We're going to go give you some direct reports.
You now are reporting to me. Hello, Aria. Welcome to my team. So Aria, I just updated a record. A good thing we didn't publish the flow. I wanted to see it work. So now we have not activated this, but we're going to test it, and we're going to give it a crisis record. And so this is new stuff here, which I don't think we've shown this on the show at all.
Mhm.
Is these changed fields, which are amazing. So we're going to come back to that. Change fields, amazing for Flow Designer. So our expectation, because we should always set the expectation before we hit go, is I'm reporting symptoms, and I just updated in air quotes my crisis task, which is the self-reporting function. So Aria came in and clicked the self-reporting. So she went to that dashboard and chose the drop down of reporting symptoms. But she also already she was part of a campaign for check-in. And we hope that that check-in acknowledgement has now been marked as acknowledged, and that she is reporting symptoms. That's what we expect to see here is when we open up this record, and that's the user record. That's not the right thing. When we open up this record, I have symptoms and I acknowledged.
Awesome.
So we should be able to see that in Flow Designer as well. So we looked up the record. We found one. We evaluated this first evaluation to true, which was that they were either, and it's a little easier to see here in the design view, they were either reporting symptoms or in quarantine. And so that is what was said. So it updated based off of that, which was to say, I have symptoms. So my status is not healthy. It's apparently what the values are for that record.
Get healthy, Andrew.
Get healthy. So let's do another one to check our flow logic because we are quickly running out of time. Let us go, and we'll do it more realistically, which is I'm going to open up this person's. I probably don't even have to do this, but I'm going to set them as my person anyway. I love the picture that's set for this person. And we're going to impersonate this person and then go use the self-check-in app. And I guess they don't have access to the dashboard by default. Can we get to it from here? No.
No. It would have to be which dashboard again? I'm sorry.
The self-reporting dashboard.
Yeah, the portal page. Yeah, they've got to have the role to be able to see it.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll pretend. It was a nice dream. It's fine. So we will be them here, and we'll be them here. And then we'll say we are declining to say so that we get to that last thing. Once we save this record should get updated. We might even be able to catch it in real time if we had opened up the record as opposed to the user. Not acknowledged. Let's catch it in real time.
Holding my breath.
2 more seconds. I really shouldn't have to hit reload form. Nope.
Ruh-roh.
Oh, I didn't activate it.
Was that a test? Did I fail?
No, I failed it. We have to hit test or activate the flow for that to have worked. So now, here we go. Bam!
Oh,
I prefer not to say acknowledged. So this is what we expected to happen. Yay! So that was the first step in thinking about how we could make these apps work together. So we are at almost the bottom of the hour. So let's stop share and return to video and wrap up.
All right.
Nice job.
I love your background. You get all the kudos for the background.
Oh,
Sneaky background, Jeremy.
I think the person with the kudos is the one with the biggest beard on the call, and Brad. It's because you can't get your beard trimmed because of COVID.
Nobody can
right?
trim it for me. I mean, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's been a little longer than that.
Yeah.
Been working on it for a while.
No, it's just been a few weeks.
So we decided on some process things that we wanted for our organization. And then we took the existing apps and we enhanced them with the features to make our business processes work in the ways that we expected, this is a normal ServiceNow thing, right? Is apps that you get from someone else building them are going to be fairly generic and solve, the 80-90% use case. And me at my organization, we're going to want to solve our particular use case. And so we're going to, adjust these things, right? So we may want to report on things slightly differently, or we want the user interaction to be slightly different from the generic case. And so that's what we did today was we sort of made that connective point between, in this case, it was the self-report dashboard and the check-in. We wanted some connectiveness between those. And there's more to do. And we talked about the things that we could do in that space of connecting the self-report with the what was the
exposure management?
The exposure management part, and then doing a full cycle between that self-report, the check-in, and the exposure management to make that connected vision between those three things, so that a user only has to go report a thing once, and the company only needs to go look in one place for their data.
Yeah.
So though these three apps have separate goals, the great part about ServiceNow to me is that this is one platform. It's super easy to connect my apps together, even in a no code way like we just did. So because we have access to so much common data and shared data, and we can integrate with other systems, including ServiceNow itself, very quickly, our apps can be more powerful than they are alone by building them together. So what else have you seen that would be an interesting connective thing that folks could do with these? Are there integrations that you've seen to other external apps? I don't know if you've got anything relevant that you'd like to share about these. This is probably the only time we're going to touch on this app on the show. So Jeremy, if you want putting you on the spot.
Oh, it's all good. Keep in mind with exposure management, you've got an inherent integration that we support out of box with O365. So we use collaboration data to determine who you might have been in contact with.
Oh my God, that's the Outlook button on that, right?
Yeah.
Is it connects to see which meetings you were in with other people.
Yeah.
To do that exposure check, right?
Yeah. So it's location.
So cool.
It's location based out of box, right? So if you got locations and users tied together, assuming you already do, you can realize the value very quickly there. But O365, some other suggestions that have been brought up are, how about we use Concur? Because Concur knows where people are as they travel around the world, using that data. Consider. So the 4 applications, as you eloquently put it, are no cost for now. for existing customers, they will continue to be, but you can extend these applications, right? So there have been great use cases from customers where they have other business processes that are being impacted because of emergencies. So one of the things is getting assistance to needy families. So folks who might be displaced, out of work, lots of questions that are coming around. So for you folks who have more, talking about using the platform, right? For you folks who have a pro subscription, right? ITSM Pro, CSM Pro, consider using Virtual Agent to start answering some of the questions that are coming out of emergencies like this. Save your folks some time, and then tie that back to the emergency response application. So if folks are pounding away questions and they're getting responses from the virtual agent, and then maybe they're saying, hey, I'm not feeling well, what do I do, right? We might link them over and say, hey, go over here, self-report, stay at home, give them some guidelines, and don't worry about work or whatever your policy is. There are many ways to use the out of the box features in the platform.
That's a great point with the virtual agent. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been a fan of virtual agent now since the first time I used it at ServiceNow, which was November of 18.
Yeah.
I didn't have great expectations, but the delivery was pretty amazing, and it's only gotten better since then. So yeah, that's a good point, is to leverage things like virtual agent to take some of the burden off of your call center and support folks, to focus on the edge cases and being able to give personalized interactions to the users that really need the deeper assistance. But for the quick questions and answers, things that a virtual agent can provide, absolutely leverage those sorts of things.
Yeah.
I love the bling on the hat, like the now sparkly on the hat that's pretty great.
Like it's a sticker. So maybe we could do a giveaway sometime. Here we go. There you go. Got some stickers.
I love the
nice.
Stickers.
Yeah.
Anything from you, Brad? How's the chat? Did they have anything else to share before we wrap on the chat?
I don't think there was anything to share.
Andrew, glad to hear you're using VA. Like you said, not for COVID, but you're using it. So awesome to hear that.
Yeah, he just had a go live. Upside Down Andrew did. Yeah, they had cupcakes for their VA go live.
Awesome.
Those cupcakes look good. Yeah.
So let's wrap up the show in my favorite way. Let's rate our drinks. So we use the same standard as what's the app? Untapped, which is 0 to 5 in quartiles. So 4 and up, 4 and 4.25 is really good. Like, absolutely, I'm totally going to drink that. So rate your drink, Jeremy.
I'd say a 4.
A 4. All right,
Yeah.
Nice solid 4.
Yeah.
It's a good go-to. Brad?
Well, I had the Dragon's Milk.
Oh man.
And it's a solid, I think it's a solid 4.25.
4.25 for the Dragon's Milk. That's about where I'd peg it. It's an excellent drink. My brother-in-law would just call it a 5, but he's a different person. And my White Zombie, it is good at what it does, but it's not amazing to me. So it's a 3.75. We got some victory. We didn't hit any major snags today, other than not having the dashboard. So it was good.
Cheers. And
now it's gone. Cheers to you, gentlemen. Brad, do you have anything else that you want to share before we wrap about? I don't know. Is there anything that you want to tell the people?
What an interesting question. There is something that I'd like to tell everybody. We are going to be announcing shortly as soon as I can publish a blog post. that we're going to be doing the CreatorCon 2020 Hackathon. No, CreatorCon 2020 Virtual Hackathon is the name we ended up with. It's going to run May 1st through the 3rd. So it's going to be the weekend before Knowledge. We're going to kick it off on the live coding happy hour on May 1st, that Friday afternoon.
Sounds like my kind of thing.
It is going to run over the weekend, and it'll conclude at midnight Eastern on Sunday night. And then we'll be announcing the winners at CreatorCon, the virtual CreatorCon.
That sounds awesome, Brad. So we're going to start the show with live code. We're going to start the hackathon with live code happy hour. That sounds like fun. That's awesome. So we're going to post more details on the developer blog. So developer.servicenow.com /blog.do, or you can click the connect, go to the blog there. We'll put it in the description of this video as well. So we'll start having the sign up process. Once that blog goes live, you can sign up and start creating your teams and read all the details that we've got posted, and really looking forward to that. So it'll be over the weekend, so that for those of you that haven't engaged in the hackathon because when you went to Knowledge you wanted to go to sessions during that time, or haven't been able to go to Knowledge before, I think this is really a great opportunity, and we were already planning to do this virtual before anyway. We just look like we are ahead of the curve now. Is there anything else other than just get the extra details from the blog, Brad?
I think that's it. We'll be posting it on the blog, and then you'll see more about it as it comes out over.
And we'll talk more about it on the show next week, and add more details in the blog. There's also the last thing I'll say about it is there's also a community forum for it where you can ask questions and get answers as relates to the hackathon specifically. Well, I would like to thank Jeremy so much for joining us today and his expertise on these apps with us, because we're noobs at it. Appreciate that. And thank all of the folks out there watching and contributing, whether or not you watched it live. We love the live viewers and the chat engagement. But for those of you that watch this later, thank you for joining us today. Visit us anytime at the developer site, developer.servicenow.com. And Brad, as always, you're my favorite. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, guys.